This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 123 of the Dressage Radio Show, brought to you with the generous support of Horseshow.com, Equestrian Collections, and Charles Owen. Hello, Chris Stafford back with you, bringing you more news and views from around the world of dressage. And just as you thought the outdoor season was winding down, we're already starting to think about the Indoor World Cup Series that will be beginning shortly. But before that, of course, we have the Pan American Games taking place in October in Guadalajara, Mexico. And on this week's show, we're going to be meeting Marisa Festerling, who is making her debut on the US team. We're also going to get a report from Horse and Hounds' Alice Collins on the British National Championships, which took place recently. And we're also going to begin a new segment later on in the show to feature upcoming events. And we're going to hear about the US Dressage Federation's Regional 3 Championships, which is taking place in October. So all that to come. But I do have a little bit of news for you in just a second. Before we get to that, I do want to remind you about one of our valued sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show, and that is Horseshow.com. The Fall Dressage Festival has opened its entries for the US Equestrian Federation tests from training through 4th level, tests 1 to 3 for all levels at Horseshow.com, and they're judged by Natalie Lamping, an FEI and USEFS licensed judge. All you have to do is submit your video to enter a class and receive a confidential scorecard with marks and comments from the judge for each movement in the test that only you can view. It's as easy as that, and you don't even have to leave home. You can enter at any time by visiting the website at horseshow.com and following the link to the Fall Dressage Festival. Well, as I said, I have a little piece of news for you this week, and that is all about the London 2012 Olympic Games. Of course, it'll be here before you know it, and the Horse Radio Network will be there. I will be covering dressage for you here on the Dressage Radio Show from London. But the FEI have actually announced the judges for that. And you will know that Stephen Clark had already been appointed as president of the grand jury. Well, the other judges have been named as Leif Tornblad from Denmark, Maribel Alonso from Mexico, Jean-Michel Roudier from France, Gary Rockwell from the USA, and Wim Ernest from the Netherlands, and Evie Eisenhardt from Germany. They will form the dressage grand jury for the London 2012 Olympic Games alongside Stephen. And the ground jury for the Paralympic equestrian event at the London 2012 Paralympics has also been confirmed. Now, that will be Lilian Janon from Argentina, Freddie Lyman from Belgium, Anne Prain from France, Gundrun Hoffinger from Germany, Sarah Roger from Great Britain, and Carlos Lopez from Portugal. The president of that grand jury will be Kiel Meyer from Norway. And also, well, we're talking about judges that have been lined up for upcoming events. As I mentioned, World Cup Series is getting underway shortly. The grand jury for the World Cup final, which takes place in Hertogenbosch in the Netherlands from April 18th to the 22nd, will again be a 7-strong grand jury, and that will be Guilain Forage from the Netherlands, who will serve as the president of that, along with Stephen Clark from Great Britain, Gary Rockwell, again from the USA, Katrin Wurst from Germany, Isabelle Juliette from France, Suzanne Anavanovas from Australia, and Leif Tornblad from Denmark. So there's the juries. We'll put a link to those lists for you on our website as well, because I know you like to keep up with what's happening in the international world of dressage. So all that to look forward to. It's going to be a big year next year with, of course, the World Cup finals are always very competitive. And a lot of those riders will be having their sights set on the London Olympic Games. So we'll bring you all of that action next year. But meanwhile, I do want to bring you news from England, where they had the national championships just recently. And Alice Collins, as you will know if you're a regular listener to the show, she is the dressage editor from the popular Horse and Hound magazine. And she has news of that, how that played out this year, some of the highlights from the championship. So let's hear from Alice. Alice, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
You have had a very busy time with British dressage, haven't you? You guys must have your head and shoulders above the rest of the crowd now with the growth and success of British dressage. You must be feeling very important in the European scene.
It's pretty exciting at the moment, I have to say. It's the first time that people are looking to us in Europe for horses to buy and, performance and training, and that's not happened for a long time, if ever, before.
It's extraordinary, we've talked about this before, Alice, but just, it's a book, isn't it? The Rise and Rise of British Dressage. And now, with the Olympics just a year away, and you've got your sights set.
And on home ground.
On home turf, and your sights, no doubt, clearly set on nothing less than being on top of that medal podium.
Yeah, we've got a number of riders who are certainly going to do their utmost to try and bring home team gold.
I'm sure. Well, as you said, we're a long way before we get there, another year, and you've had all kinds of things happening over there recently, not least of all your national championships, and not too many surprises there, but tell us what happened. How did it look from where you were sitting?
Well, our Grand Prix national champion is once again Laura Bettelsteimer with her lovely Andretti. Alf, who is Mistral Horace, is having a break after his fantastic year. And Laura rode a slightly tricky Grand Prix on the Saturday, because what happens is there's a Grand Prix on the Saturday and a Kerr on the Sunday, and it's the combined score that gives you your overall national champion. And she was just ahead of Michael Eilberg on Marikov in Saturday's Grand Prix, but she did have a few issues with the contact, and he didn't look 100% straightforward. But she very much pulled herself together for Sunday and rode a super test, including flying changes both one times and two times on a curving line with her reins in one hand. She claimed she had some steering problems, but it really didn't look like it. It was a masterclass.
Well, that's always going to score bonus points, isn't it?
Exactly.
The changes are on a bending line and the one-handed. The judges love that.
Yeah, well, it really ups the degree of difficulty. But I have to say, second place Michael Eilberg really can't be overlooked. He's not been riding at Grand Prix for very long, but he has he has an old head on young shoulders, and he rides Marikov, who started off his life show jumping incredibly well.
Well, not only Michael, but his sister Marie did pretty well too, didn't she?
Yep, she was third on two socks, and she also announced his retirement at the end of her Kerr test, and she got a full standing ovation from the crowd. And I have to say, I looked around, and there were not many dry eyes. He's a real sweetheart.
Oh. Well, let's talk about the other stars of the championships then. What sort of attendance did you get at those championships? What sort of size classes would you have? Put it in perspective for us, Alice.
Well, I think the biggest class was the Elementary Open, which attracted 34 entries. So they're quite chunky classes, and they can run over, 4 or 5 hours sometimes. But looking to the small tour, it was Carl Hester that took the Inter 2 on a lovely grey horse called Merlin's Numericis. And he's only competed this horse twice, and, obviously doing really well. And he cantered out of the first Piaffe, but Carl is such a master that he managed to get the horse's attention back again. He scored 9s for his pirouettes, and that's definitely a Grand Prix horse in the making.
And tell us about the Shearwater Potential International Dressage Horse Championship, the 4-year-old.
Well, it'll come as no surprise that Farouche dominated those classes. She got given a 9.82, and she is truly something exceptional. What happens in the Shearwater is there's a ride judge, and for the top 2 4-year-olds and the top 2 5-year-olds are assessed separately by a rider. And when Dan Sheriff, who was ride judging, got off, he said, "Oh my God, I'm actually shaking. This is an honour and something I'll never forget." So yeah, I think he was pretty nervous about it, and he was joking that he was going to hope that she bolted into the back of his lorry, and he was going to say, "Well, it's not my fault. She's very sharp."
So tell us about those classes. What sort of numbers would you get for that for the 4-year-old class?
I think we had about 24-year-olds and about 25-year-olds forward, and they have the pre-judging on the Saturday, whereby they go in groups of 2 or 3 or 4, and they trot and canter and walk around, and they're assessed for their basic paces and given an overall mark. And from them, the top 8 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds go back in the following day, and then from them, the top 2 of each age group are selected, and they go into this final judging with the ride judge. And the horse that stood reserve supreme was a 4-year-old, because the last 4 compete against each other, the 2 4-year-olds and the 2 5-year-olds. The reserve champion was a 4-year-old called Corincio, and he's by Painted Black out of a Beaujolais mare. So really exciting prospect with Becky Moody. And she's producing these young horses with a lady who's got a string of mares. So hopefully she'll have these young horses coming up, not just the one-off, and she's going to be having them coming up now.
Well, you mentioned Becky Moody. There are a number of names that would not be as familiar with our listeners around the world here, Alice. And obviously the top riders we know so well. But what other riders would you consider to be rising stars that we should look out for?
Well, I'm not sure if I can call Michael Eilberg a rising star or a risen star.
A risen star, yes, exactly.
But he rode, between him and his sister, they rode 9 horses at these championships, and he rode something like 14 tests. I mean, how he remembered them, I don't know, but he has a superb string of mares. He had 3 mares by DiMaggio, who is a previous world champion stallion who stands in the UK with him. One of those was Dawn Roshan, who is Farouche's mother, and he won the PSG on her. And another one who I'm personally really excited about is a mare called Half Moon Delphi. She's a grey mare, and she has the most incredible hind leg you've ever seen. She almost overtakes her front end in the flying changes. And I know that Michael thinks that she is in the same league as Farouche and really has big things on the horizon for her.
Very, very exciting. Who else should we look at there? Of course, their names we're familiar with them. I'm thinking of, the other very much rising stars in British dressage that we should be looking out for, that potential team members in a couple of years' time, for example.
One that definitely caught my eye was in the medium restricted, a guy called Darren Crowe, who I wasn't really familiar with before, but I was watching and I looked across and I said to the person I was sitting next to, gosh, that guy sits beautifully on a horse. Who is he? And we watched his test with a tricky horse called Monterey. They even asked that he not be photographed because they were worried that the cameras would set him off because he's got some naughty tendencies, let's say. And Darren rode a beautiful test and won the medium class. And it was even more special because Darren had cancer and had 2 years out of the saddle, and it was his first national championship. So it was just an unbelievable fairy tale, that one.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and it's just so exciting, the talent that you have both in riders and in horses here for the future.
Yeah, well, another rising star that caught my eye is a chestnut gelding who's British bred called GF DeVille. Sorry, he's a stallion who's British bred called GF DeVille under Dan Greenwood, who won the Elementary Open. I mean, Dan describes him as a cool customer, and he really is. I mean, there was clapping and cheering from the person who had been previously, and he walked in and he pricked his ears and he said, okay, that's fine. And off he went. He's a really, really special horse. So I think good things in the pipeline for him.
Terrific. Well, we should also mention the European Para Dressage Championships took place as well, and I think you had things your own way as well, didn't you? I should say Britain did.
Yeah, that's right. We are still unbeaten on the international stage in para dressage, I'm very proud to say. We had an all-girl team, and they brought home 8 golds and 3 silvers, which is absolutely remarkable, including people making their debuts on teams who were coming back with team gold. So, yeah, it's not just the able-bodied dressage that's exciting for us at the moment, but the paras are incredible. And I'd like to especially mention Sophie Wells because she competes in able-bodied classes too. She has specially adapted reins with hooks because she doesn't find it easy to hold normal reins. But she was competing in the Inter One and the Inter One Music at the Nationals and was top 10 in both classes. I mean, she's truly an inspiration.
Amazing, amazing. So where were they held? Tell us a little bit about where they were. Did Horse and Hound cover those, or did you have a reporter over there?
The Europeans, we did cover the Europeans. They were in Morcel in Belgium at the beginning of September. And I think that some of the horses that then went on to do the Nationals, I wouldn't say it was an anticlimax for the para riders, but it definitely didn't feel like the big deal of the year for them, because they'd already had their major championships and they'd done so exceptionally well that the Nationals was just the icing on the cake, really. Also, it's quite unusual. We've only got a couple of competitions in this country for the paras where they have to actually ride outdoors, compete outdoors. Normally it's indoor competition. So I think that probably has an effect on them and possibly makes them ride a little bit more safely.
Yes, understandably too. Great. Well, it really is all going Britain's way right now. What do you look forward to over the winter for the indoor competitions, Alice?
Well, we have, what happens now is we have a qualifying period for the winter regionals and then the winter championships, which happen sort of April time of next year. And people often tend to consolidate their training at home over the winter, try and get their winter regional qualifications in the bag before the horrible weather sets in, which sadly it always does. But yeah, the winter's often quite a quiet time for people. But the one thing we really have to look forward to is Olympia, which is a big show that happens in December, and it has the one World Cup qualifier of this country. So we normally get some big names from the UK and over from the continent for that. And I know that that's when Charlotte and Carl are next planning on bringing Vallegro and Utopia out.
Well, of course, there is that big old show that you have at the end of the year. Some of our listeners in England will be well familiar with that, and that is, of course, is the Horse of the Year show, which historically, I'm not sure, I haven't been there for a few years, but historically used to parade champions, like European championships and so on. Will they be parading the European team, do you know, at this year's Horse of the Year show?
They don't really have dressage at the Horse of the Year show. It's more showing and show jumping show.
Yes,
so
but they used to parade any champions, any team champions, eventers and whoever they would parade in the past. I just wondered if the dressage team would get their moment in the limelight there.
I haven't heard of that happening in dressage, no.
Ah, well, maybe because, we haven't had so many medals.
We never had any.
All right. Well, always good fun to talk to you. Thank you, Alice, for the update, and enjoy the full season over there. We'll look forward to getting more updates from you.
No problem. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much. Well, we're going to turn our attention to the upcoming Pan American Games in just a second and hear from one of the US team members, Marisa Festerling. But before that, I want to remind you about one of our sponsors here on the Dressage Radio Show that make this show possible, and that, of course, is Equestrian Collections. The full season being upon us now, it's time to start thinking about your horse's blankets again. Perhaps it's time for a new one. Well, Equestrian Collections has an extensive range of blankets for all weather conditions, from the popular horsewear choices of Amigo, Rhino and Rambo models for turning out. When it gets colder, your horse will be ready with a brand new blanket from Equestrian Collections. And if you use your coupon code HRN at the checkout, you'll get a further $10 off your next order of $100 or more. Equestrian Collections is a participating retailer of the Horse World Gives Back campaign. Please be sure to visit their website at equestriancollections.com. Well, as I said, my guest this week, Marisa Festerling, is making her debut on the US team. Very, very exciting turning point in her career to make the team. And a lot of you will maybe not be so familiar with Marisa because she has not been in the international limelight, as so many of my guests have. But I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to her because obviously it's a very exciting time for her. I was able to catch up with her after the selection trials as she now begins her final preparation before heading down to Mexico for those championships which take place in the middle of October, which we'll be bringing you more of. So let's hear from Marisa and find out what it feels like to be named for a national team. Well, hi, Marisa. Welcome to the Dressage Radio Show.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Well, great to have you on the show. And first of all, a huge congratulations. Has it all sunk in yet that you are on the U.S. team for the Pan American Games?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it started to sink in. I think it took about a week for it to really seem like it was really happening. The first, couple days were just kind of like a whirlwind, and I mean, I was so excited and happy, and I just it didn't really seem like it was real, And then the show kind of ended, and I moved my horse to the place where we're staying. We're staying with Betsy Steiner in New Jersey for a few weeks before we moved to the training. So now that I've been here for another week or so, and we're kind of in a routine, I feel like, wow, this is really happening, and I'm staying here, and so it's been pretty cool.
Well, it really must be a dream come true, and your horse is the perfect name, that you finally hit the big time with Big Time, and I'm sure that pun is going to be used many times in future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's a remarkable story, and obviously a dream come true for you, Marisa, to make the team. So let's give everybody a little bit of backstory as to where Marisa Festerling came from, because I know there's going to be people around the world listening, Marisa, and they'll say, well, I've heard of Heather, I've heard of Stefan. Now, who is Marisa Festerling? So let's tell them who Marisa Festerling is, because your name is going to be up there in the limelight now that you're on the team. And it all began, I think, not with dressage, but you began your riding just having a bit of fun in another discipline, didn't you?
Yeah, I actually started riding, before I could walk. My grandparents have quarter horses, and they had cattle and stuff, and I started riding on my grandparents' quarter horses when I was a baby, and they didn't live real close to me, but every chance that I had, or every family outing to visit them, I would ride, and I kind of grew up doing that, when I could, or in the summers and stuff like that. But I was always just a complete horse crazy kid. And when I was probably 15 or 16, my parents finally broke down and bought me a horse. And it was I think I pestered them to death for long enough. And they bought me a horse, and I mowed lawns, and I did all kinds of chores and stuff to make money to help pay for his care and for my lessons. And I started taking English riding lessons then. I think I was about 15. And the horse was a little crazy, kind of that first horse crazy thing, thoroughbred, And I rode with at a small place for about a year or two, and kind of realized that, it maybe wasn't so safe, and I should try to, find somewhere else to go. So I ended up finding Marie when I was 16 years old. And I've been with her, Marie Myers, for 18 years now. And she's, of course, been my mentor, my trainer, my coach. She's been very, very good to me. I didn't know anything at the time, but I read about her in a Practical Horseman article about famous riders, and it was their Christmas wish list article. And she wanted a horse head-shaped jacuzzi. So I thought she sounded really cool, and she happened to be located pretty close to where I lived in California, and so I started calling her, and she was out of town, and I kept calling, and her husband Frank kept answering, and so finally I got to go out for a lesson, and I think I went for one or two lessons, and I think she thought that I desperately needed help. It was so bad, and so she offered to let me stay as a working student for like a couple weeks in the summer. So I did. I came, and I never left. So several horses later, we're now on to this, we call him Frankie in the barn. And he's, of course, an exceptional horse. We've had him since he was, I think, 4 years old. And, he's a super, super horse. He's a super competition horse. He loves being at the shows. He's not the first young horse he's probably the fourth or fifth one that I've started with. The other horses were really good too. I sold them along the way, or things happened, so I didn't keep them to this point, where they were really solid trained FEI horses. But we have had a few along the way, and Frankie, of course, is such a good one that when we saw him, Marie actually bought him in Belgium when he was a baby, and brought him over, and it just worked out that I ended up buying him from her with one of my clients, and we planned to just, see how far it could go and train him, and he went to the World Championships for young horses when he was 5, so that was in 2006. We did that. That was in Germany, and he did really well there. It was really, really super. It was a really good trip for both of us. It was my first big international competition. And he just proved that as a 5-year-old, to go over there and travel like that and do that well, he was really a legitimate competitor, and he handled it so well. And that was really great to see. And then that was 2006. The next year I had my daughter, Ella, who is almost 4 now. So we did not do any more of the young horse stuff after that. And then after I had my daughter, we started doing like the fourth level, the pre-St. George stuff. And last year, I brought him to Gladstone last year. We did the intermediate championships last year. We finished 5th. And then we came back, of course, for this year for the Pan Am trials. So that's a little bit kind of my history, kind of the condensed version, I guess.
Well, we'll hear more from Marisa and that special partnership in just a second, but first of all, I want to remind you about Charles Owen, one of our valued sponsors here on the show. Charles Owen is world famous for its range of safety helmets, but did you know that it also has an extensive range of gloves and boots and other accessories for all disciplines, from the Chester to New Ascot gloves, and a popular collection of riding hats for all levels of dressage, and not forgetting the all-important hairnets. They also have an accessory for women to keep your shoulders straight too. So if you're shopping for a new hat or gloves, then look no further than Charles Owen. You can find out more about their products on their website at charlesowen.co.uk. So obviously this is a partnership that's really worked for you because you've had him for so long. He's what now? Would he be 10 or 11 now, Marisa?
He's 10. He's 10 right now. Mm-hmm.
What kind of personality does he have then? Does he literally take all this in his stride, jet-setting around the country, around the world? Is he the right sort of temperament for a team horse?
I think he is. Yeah, definitely. It's almost like the bigger the occasion, the better he is. Which God love him for that, because at home he's a very quiet, relaxed horse at home. He's happy to go on a trail ride. He's not a fire-breathing dragon or anything like that. He's fairly docile. He has funny quirks, like a lot of good horses. He has certain ways he wants to be handled, and we have certain routines we go through that he kind of expects, every day. And if he's used to his routine and his people, he's a really good boy. But as far as like big competitions go, I feel like, of course he's my horse and I've had him so long and I know him. I even know the way his eyes look, how he is that day. But I feel like he knows almost when we're in a competition, and he likes the crowd. He likes the audience. He doesn't shy away from that. So that's been really wonderful as far as competing, because so far, when we go to a big competition, he really steps up, and that gives you confidence as a rider, as in your partnership. I think that's really important thing, and I've been really, really lucky with him in that way.
Well, although you've had some international experience with him, Marisa, and obviously been to Gladstone before, as you mentioned, going into the selection trials this year, did you feel you had a good crack at getting on the team? What were your expectations of him and of your performances?
Well, we went in 5th place into the trials, which, once you get there, those scores are all thrown out. You're all on an even playing field. And a lot of the horses from the East Coast, we don't actually see till we get back here. So you don't always know what to expect as far as that goes. I knew Stefan and his horse very well because we were at every show with them. And so I knew what to expect with that. I knew that was going to be really good and tough to beat. I had never seen Cesar's horse or Heather's horse in person, so I knew they were really good. But I had never seen them go. And then some of the other people, like Shauna Harding, I'd never actually seen those horses go. I've seen them ride in person, on other horses, but never seen them. And I guess going in, I knew we had a good chance. I thought that we would do well here, as long as everything went as planned. I guess I just went into it thinking, I was going to do my very best to just ride each day separately, just take each day, do the very best I could just to stay focused on the job at hand, which was just to put in 3 solid tests. And just kind of break it down day by day, even from the days we got here beforehand and we were training. I just tried to keep my horse happy and, keep him feeling good and just keep us on track because, each day you get on, it's like a new day starting over. It's a fresh new day. And even if I had a really good test one day, I knew the next day, I had to get on and be just as focused and do the same thing. So I thought that we had a good chance, but I didn't really let myself think about it too much until the whole thing was over. Then I kind of stopped and thought about it, In the midst of it, I was just thinking about the riding, and that was kind of it.
Now, what kind of a competitor are you, Marisa? Do you handle the nerves and the whole occasion of competition and the pressure that goes with it? How do you channel that so you are focused solely on your performance? Is this something that you would have to really address now that you're in a sort of team situation?
Mm-hmm. Well, so far, I haven't really, found any issues with it. I don't really have any routines or any pregame things I do. I don't really go off by myself or anything. I just always try to tell myself that I'm just riding. It's just another ride like at home. Actually, the only thing I think kind of is when I ride in the competition arena, in my mind, it sort of looks like our arena at home. And that's kind of what I try to think of and sort of just attack the test in the same way as if I were at home, and so I don't really feel like I'm in another situation. But I don't have like any special ways, that I prepare myself really. I just, when I know the time is coming and it's a couple hours out, I do think about my test and think about my ride, but I'm pretty happy if just my normal crew is around, and I know my horse is going to be ready on time. I think that's the one thing that can be stressful is if you feel like you're rushed. For me, I don't like to feel like I'm rushed as it comes closer. So I just like to know everything's ready and all my tack is ready and everything. And that's about it. Then once you get on to ride, it's kind of like you just do your thing, hopefully.
Well, of course, in a team situation, you just have the one horse, one competition, one horse to focus on. So it's a bit of a luxury in a way that you can really focus on that one horse, and all the other distractions are on one side. And I believe you have a very loyal groom for Frankie in Leanne. Tell us about Leanne and how long she's been with you and known Frankie.
Well, she's been really, really great. She actually does an amazing job because she is not our normal groom. She lives here in New Jersey, and she came last year. Last year was the first time I met her, actually. She came to Gladstone last year with us and groomed him through the competition, and then I asked her if she would be available this year if we came back, and she said she probably would be. So I talked to her a couple months ago, and she was free. She was available to come, so she came, the week before that we were here and throughout the competition, and she's amazing. She has a really good way with him, and he really, really loves her, and she's quiet and really capable. So they really clicked, which is great for me because to have someone here in this area, I didn't have to fly a groom from home out, which we would have done, but it did save me a lot of money in not having to bring someone and, fly them and then get a car and all kinds of logistics that are involved with these kind of trips. So it was really great, but she has been wonderful. She's actually going to help us through the pre-games training, which is up in Long Valley, New Jersey. She's going to help us there. And then I have a groom from home is actually coming to the games in Guadalajara with us because on top of everything else, Leanda, she goes to school also. So she's very busy. So yeah, she can't actually come to Guadalajara, so she has to stay here and go to school.
So who is your groom that will be traveling with you to Guadalajara?
The groom that's going to come with us is actually a girl that I teach at home. Her name's Caitlin Zacca, and she's a student of mine, and she's really, really, really great, super dependable, very experienced. She's also a writer, but very, very good, and she's coming for part of the pre-games training, and then she'll travel with Frankie on the plane to Guadalajara with the other team horses.
Well, of course, support team is critical, isn't it, at any competition, especially when you make the team.
Absolutely.
And have to travel overseas. And you have, as you mentioned earlier, of your daughter Ella, who's a big helper, and your husband, they'll all be traveling with you, will they?
Yeah, Ella is here now with me because for this extended stay away, it was a little bit long for me to be gone from home. So she's here with me for a few weeks. Then when the pre-games training starts, she will go home with my husband. So he's going to come out for a couple of short visits because he's at home working right now. So she'll go back with him, and then he will actually come to Guadalajara to watch the competition. And but in between, he's got to go home and take care of everything at home and go to work and do all that fun stuff. But yeah, it has required a really big support team, and then also Marie, my trainer, she's coming back twice to help me here. And then she's also got the job of running our whole business at home and taking care of our clients and students there. So I think she's probably the busiest person through all of this, through the whole journey and the travel and everything. She's got a lot that she's taking care of. So it's taken everybody, to make this happen. And I so appreciate everything everyone's done. It wouldn't have been possible without everybody being on board and so supportive.
Well, you made the point there about the business being kept running while you're away on team duties. And that, of course, is important. A lot of riders have the same situation. They have to step away from their business in order to get into team training. And obviously, there's a loss of business as well if they're the only person. It does involve a lot of sacrifice, doesn't it? We mentioned the team support, the family support you have, the team support you have at home and with your family, but it also doesn't involve sacrifices for yourself because you're not able to ride your other horses and deal with your other clients while you're doing this, Marisa.
No. Exactly, and I think a lot of riders have the same issue. I think it's especially hard when you live on the West Coast because you have to come, first just for the trials. You have to come in advance, so you stay for that. And then with this year being a team year, if you make it, you have to stay. I could have gone home, I suppose, but I would have had to fly my horse all the way home and then all the way back in a period of another 3 weeks. And I thought that could be hard on him. Even any kind of travel is risky, and the cost of it was too much, for me to do. So I'm here for. When all is said and done, by the time I've left to come for the trials, and by the time I get back after the games, it'll be about 7 weeks that I've been gone. And so that in itself costs money. It does. You have to have your business running, and I'm very fortunate that Marie and I are a partnership, and she's there. But it's hard. It is. It takes a lot of planning. Well,
obviously, this is, as I said, is a lifetime journey for you to have reached this point where you're making your debut on the team. So I'm bound to ask that do you have other horses back in the barn, Marisa, that you have for future team prospects?
Right now, Frankie is my only horse that I personally own. We do ride horses for other people. We have clients who ride their own horses also. We sell a lot of horses. That's one of our big things we're known for, is selling really nice amateur horses and young horses also. And so I ride and show a lot of other horses. A lot of them are horses that are for sale, though. So, if they get sold, then that's what we do. We move on to the next one. If we find a really exceptional one and someone wants to leave it with us, then, we do that too. But right now, as far as one specific special horse I have, I don't really have one in the wings right now.
But this one obviously is very, very exciting, and obviously the rest of it's all a journey now, isn't it? You're now to the next phase, the pre-games training that you'll go into, and then obviously shipping to Guadalajara. Which part of that excites you the most? Is it being part of a team and having that experience as well, Marisa, that you're really looking forward to? Because I can imagine, obviously, normally we compete individually, but to be part of a team is a whole new experience, isn't it?
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge honor, I think, to represent your country. You dream of wearing the USA, on your back, wearing the flag on your horse's pad and stuff like that. It's an honor, and it is an honor to to compete against other riders who are so good. And, you know, everyone who made it, who just makes it to the trials is super, and their horses are really good. And so I think that, you know, when you make it and you achieve that, it is an honor. You know, for me, it's just to say, you know, wow, I'm on the team with these people, you know, Olympians and great riders and stuff, and it's really exciting. You know, I can't wait to go to Guadalajara as part of the American team. I think it's going to be so exciting and a great experience, and for sure something that I'll remember for, you know, my entire life. I hope there's more teams I'm on after this, but you know, regardless, it will still be a huge moment for me in my life, you know, not just in the riding, but just, you know, you work really hard for something for a long time, and to say, you know, I'm part of the American team. I ride for USA. It's really, really cool.
Absolutely cool. Well, as Anne Gribbons, the chef de crepe, has described it, it is a dream team, and you obviously are blessed to be a part of that, and hopefully it will be a dream come true for you, Marisa. The very, very best of luck. Enjoy every minute of the experience.
Thank you.
And we look forward to catching up with you after the games and hearing all about it.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yeah, I think it's going to go really well, and I think that we'll do really great down there, and I'm really excited. So thank you so much for having me.
And we will, of course, be following the fortunes of not just the U.S. team, but all the teams competing at the Pan American Games in Guadalajara, Mexico, next month. So stay tuned for more of that. But now I want to bring you a brand new segment here on the Dressage Radio Show, and that is about featured upcoming events. As I said, we get a lot of requests from different dressage events, clinics, competitions around the world. So we're opening up this opportunity for your show, your event, wherever you are in the world, to be featured on the show. And our featured competition this week is the U.S. Dressage Federation's Region 3 Championships, which take place next month in October. So let's hear all about them. Well, I'm joined now by Elodie Mainwell from Region 3, U.S. Dressage Federation's Region 3. Elodie, welcome to the show and welcome to our highlighted upcoming events segment.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be able to share that with everyone.
Well, you have a big championship, as I said, coming up, don't you, in October 14th through 16th, isn't it?
That's correct. And it is in Ocala, Florida. And like you said, it's the Region 3 Championships. It'll be 5 states that'll be competing, Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, and South Carolina. And I guess everyone knows that riders come with approved because they've received 2 scores from 2 different judges, 2 different shows, and it has to be at a certain level for them to be invited to the championships. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just curious about the different levels then, the championships. So do you have all levels during the championships?
Yes, it'll be training through Grand Prix, and also we'll have musical freestyles. So there will be a great variety to come and watch and enjoy, and top level riders, and it'll be very educational. And besides that, we have a lot of activities going on as well. Some of those that we have are, just to mention a few, we have a tour of Kesmark, which is a world-class rehab center in Ocala. There will be an open house on Thursday from 5 to 7, so you'll be able to get a shuttle bus and go enjoy wine and cheese and have a tour of the facility. The people that run this facility are amazing. They are dedicated to the rehab and treatment of your horse. There's facilities like salt and freshwater treadmills, acupuncture, chiropractic treatments, nutritional programs, individualized exercise programs. It's just an amazing facility to see.
Yes, and we have one, of course, up here in Kentucky, and they really are. It's actually quite close to me, and wonderful, wonderful facilities. Definitely worth a look around it because very educational and quite an eye-opener to see all the things that they can do. So that's quite a bonus feature you have.
Yes, and we also have the Horse America, which is the interactive riding simulator. The America will be at the showgrounds the entire weekend. It's the first time ever in the area, and you can purchase a ride on her, and every rider can help. It helps every rider find an optimal riding position, and it's fully controlled by an instructor. So that's a lot of fun to be able to do that. There's a mirror in front of you, and you'll ride, and if you have any fears or issues or want to learn something, it gives you feedback right then and there. A horse that can talk to you. What more could you want?
That is so cool. It's rather like the flight simulator, isn't it? You know, you can allay all your fears of flying or riding.
That's right, exactly. The one thing I did want to mention, too, is there is a DSDCTA open show at the same time. So if you wanted to just bring your horse and show, you can go ahead and still sign up for that and participate. You'll need to just go onto the dsdcta.org website and then find the show secretary, which is Lloyd Landcamer.
Right. We should explain that is the Deep South Dressage and Combined Training Association. In case you're wondering, 5 states, you said, taking part in the championship. So it's quite a big competition to organise, and I'm sure you have a whole organising committee that's behind this then, Elodie.
Yes, we do have an organizing committee behind this. Everyone's working very hard, and our volunteers will be there working very hard. And I just want to say this is all to benefit 2 charities that will receive a portion of the proceeds from the show. And the charities that we have are the Stirrup and Stride Therapeutic Riding Program, and that's a program for veterans and the physically impaired. And then we also have Paws for Patriots, which provides service dogs for veterans. So we're excited to be able to contribute a portion of the proceeds to those 2 charities.
Well, that's fantastic. And, of course, there's a lot more information on your website. We'll put a link to that, of course, at dsdcta.org. That will be on our website, too. And we'll be promoting this for the twice more before the event at 14th to the 16th of October. And tell us exactly where people can find the event. What is the location of the event?
Oh, goodness, you would ask me that. I don't know exactly. It is in Ocala, Florida. It's at the HITS Showgrounds.
Okay.
So I think if you just go onto the website, the information will be there of exactly how to get there.
Right, that's the Post-Time Farm, isn't it, in Ocala?
That's it, exactly.
Right, okay, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for telling us about it, and we'll look forward to promoting it further here on the Dressage Radio Show, and good luck with the event, Elodie.
Thank you very much.
And if you would like your show, event, clinic, whatever it may be in the dressage world, if you would like it featured on our segment of featured upcoming events, then please send me an email to chris@horseradionetwork.com. That's CHRIS, chris@horseradionetwork.com. Well, I've had a few great suggestions for our segment of great partnerships that I'm going to be bringing you over the future months here. I'm looking forward to that. So keep sending your suggestions for any of those great partnerships you'd like to hear about. Or you can post them on our Facebook fan page, which a lot of people do too. So keep those suggestions coming, and we'll keep our guests coming here on the show to bring you memories of great partnerships. I also want to remind you, of course, about our young reporters, that we are always looking for young reporters. If you're under 20 years of age and want to report on your show anywhere in the world, again, just send me an email to chris@horseradionetwork.com. And if you haven't checked out the Equestrian Legends show, a brand new show, we're now on episode 5 at equestrianlegends.com or on iTunes. As you know, you can listen to all of our shows on iTunes too. And Equestrian Legends brings you memories of some of those most famous horsemen and women from around the world and around the horse world, and in their own voice. I mean, it is a wonderful, wonderful show. I'm really enjoying that. I'm bringing that bi-weekly, and that's at equestrianlegends.com. And if you have any suggestions for people that I should be featuring on that show, I would love to hear from you too. We're not only covering the 3 Olympic disciplines, we are covering horsemen and women who have made a significant contribution and are regarded as equestrian legends in their field. That's at equestrianlegends.com. I want to thank my guests this week for joining me, Marisa Festerling, to Horse and Hounds Alice Collins, and to Elodie Madewell from US Dressage Federation's Region 3. And, of course, to our valued sponsors on the show that make it possible. That is Horseshow.com, Equestrian Collections, and Charles Owen. Well, that about wraps it up for this week. Don't forget to check out all the show notes and links on our website at dressageradio.com. You can follow us on Twitter, as always, at Horse Radio, and you can follow me, Chris E. Stafford. And we have a very active Facebook page. I love to hear your comments on there, so don't be shy. Post your notes, comments, questions, and suggestions for the Dressage Radio Show right there. And as always, it's a pleasure to be bringing you the show each week. I want to thank you very much for your company, and I will be back at the same time, same place next week. So until then, enjoy your dressage, and thank you for listening.